Well, we got an email request this time. This person says, I'm trying to do a painting that has curves in the road, but I can't get the curves right. Do you have a quick tip that can help me paint curves in the road? Well, we will after this one. When I get a request like this, I like to think of how I can teach you a method of doing what the person asks and not just show you, okay, this is the way you do it. Because if you know a way to figure things out or to see things, how to guide yourself to see things, then you're free to see things as like curves in the road as they are every time. Now I have a little tool here that you can make yourself. Um, I want to show this to you first. You can see what it is. It's a little bow, but it's not a bow to shoot arrows. It's a bow to find, well, you'll find out in just a minute. It's a bow to find angles. But I want to tell you how to make one of these. If you have shrubs in your around in your environs, or you know where a good shrub is in a park, or wherever, all you'll need to do is to just break a little twig from the shrub. That's what this is. I just went out in my yard and found a twig, or a limb, I should say. Well, I don't know what you call the parts that come out of a shrub. Anyway, and while it's green is the time to make this tool, because then you can bend that while it's green, and then it will draw in shape and it won't break. So that's what I did, and I stripped the bark off it. You see here, very easy to do. Just makes it easier to handle, not necessary to do that. And I just got some cord and did a slip knot on each end and tied it really, really tight, and then pulled it to that bow so I can have that straight line. It's that straight line that I want. This little tool, you don't have to pay money for. You probably have the ingredients for how to do this right in your backyard. So you make one of these. Now some people prefer to get them ready made, and if there's a dollar store in your vicinity, I understand in their toy department they have toy bows. Or you go online and order a Cupid's bow. Why not just make yourself one that you can get it? If you make it yourself, you can get it as long as short as you want it. Okay, so this is very, very simple to do. Now, what this does is it enables us to focus our eyes on what we're seeing in terms of angles, in terms of the horizontal lines that we see, our eye level, and also verticals. So we can turn that in either direction. Now this is kind of well, I got the idea from my classes when I was in school, where in the figure drawing class we would use a plumb line. A plumb line just has as a line with a heavy weight on the end, and you hold it up and it's vertical. And then you can close one eye and you can move that around, and then you can identify curves and angles really much, much better if you have something to compare it with. Compare is the word I want to stick in your brain. Compare. How much comparison do you do when you're painting from one area to another? One of the secrets to getting a really good, well-proportioned and executed painting is always compare. So I'm going to start here about curves in the road. Actually, if we hold this up, now this is one thing, it must be horizontal when we're doing this. Don't try to tilt it like that when you're trying to find what I'm going to show you. And the reason it's horizontal, reason we hold it horizontally, is so that we can then compare that horizontal line with what we're seeing. Now here's what I want you to notice. as I hold this up and compare this, let me see if I can hold it up like this. There we go. I hold this up next to this photograph and compare it with that back line of the road. Do you see it's almost horizontal? This part right here, almost. And you can see it's a very slight tilt to it. So I'm going to take it step by step. In that case, if I were setting up for a painting and to get my preliminary drawing done for a painting, what I would do, and this is one of my favorite ways to get a preliminary drawing, is to use a wash. And this is just an ultramarine blue. And the reason I like for oil paint, reason I like ultramarine blue for a wash is that it's non-staining and you can lift it out and put it back in. And so some of the colors are staining, so they don't work well for doing the preliminary drawing. Just a little bit of solvent with not much, just a little bit of solvent in the brush, and then easing the brush into the paint and pulling it down like that. So that will get it done. Now I'm going to get a paper towel so I can control that just a little bit. All right, now so what am I looking for? I want to make a line to represent the back of that road. I want to make a line that has the kind of tilt I discover if I hold this horizontal. You see that? It's very, very subtle tilt, something like that. Now, as I'm coming down the road, watch what happens there. You don't see curves. You really don't see very much curving at all. But what you see are sequences of angles. And look what happens if we hold this right here. Look what happens right here. That's not really curved. That's just a change in angle. And see, that one is almost horizontal. Let's see if we maybe had just a slight tilt in this direction. And it's not very long. It's about like that. And then we go on the other side of that. You see, we've got a sharper tilt that comes down in this direction. And those two meet. So we've got something sort of like this. All right, so it gets wider back there and more narrow as it comes this way. Now, that's the way you observe. Instead of just trying to do a curvy road, you'll be doing something like this, and it will look like you're going to go way uphill. So just take it one angle at a time and use something to guide yourself. Now you'll see artists doing other things like holding the handle of a paintbrush up. That works well too. If your finger's not crooked, you can hold your finger up to it. But I like this little guide because it's such a thin line that we can see we can see the angles above it and below it, and I like that for that reason. Now if we come on down, we see a very slight little tiny C curve right there. It's just very slight. In fact, we could just make a slight vertical. Well, I did let it curve just a little bit, but that's just about it. And then what happens as it comes down, what is the next line we see? If we hold this up like this, again, and we see there again. You see how that's sort of a little bit kind of zigzag as that line, and you see it's just very tilted very slightly in that direction, and it goes off just kind of like that. And you can create whatever zigzag you see in there when you get to your painting, assuming that this would be the edge of the painting. All right, now it's a good idea when you're doing something like this that has two sides. It's a good idea to take it in segments from top to bottom. Create the angles of the lines you have, the edges for one section, and then go down the next section and then down. And that way you can be sure that you're comparing those that are on the same level with each other or parallel to each other, or whatever relationship they have. It's easier then to see that as you develop your preliminary drawing. All right, so then once I have this one, for that reason I just explained to you, then I'll go on to the other side, and once again I'll do this comparison. So that goes up and it has a very slight tilt, and look at where that tilt ends. It ends about right there. So it's just sort of long, and where does it end? About right there. So see, I can beat. Now when you're coming here, you have to be careful that you don't tilt this, that you keep it horizontal, and you can just hold it right there, and that shows you where that needs to end. Now, see, I went a little bit too far because I was going a little too fast, but this is what I mean now. I can dip a little bit of a paper towel into some mineral spirits or whatever solvent we're using and lift that right out. And when you're doing preliminary drawing, that's okay. When you're doing preliminary drawing, if you get your preliminary drawing right, then you don't have to worry about it going south on you when you are doing the painting. So let me take that mark away right here. Right now, so we'll just continue that same thing. I think that tilts just a little bit more down, kind of like that. Okay, now we'll continue the same thing. And now, look at this. Now, look, it changes directions totally. And this, at this point, if it changes directions, then we can hold this up vertically. So if we compare lines that go more towards the horizontal with the horizontal line, it's easy to see the tilt, what kind of tilt that is. But then when the line is becoming more vertical like that, then if you can hold this vertical, it gives you a comparison. So that vertical then, this comes down like that, vertical kind of does something like this, doesn't it? And then on this side, we've already indicated that. All right, so now if the painting would probably end about right down here, something like that. And then we would have a road. Now, if you can imagine now that the bank over here, the trees over here, and all this sort of stuff, you'll see pretty close. But I see one little place where I need to edit. So there's another word, edit. Not it's wrong because that's too negative. But if you think of this like writers do, in terms of editing, meaning you go back and you revisit it and make it a little crisper. What I notice now when I compare, remember that word compare? When I compare this with this, I notice this is a little close in. So I need to shorten this part right here, and I can tell I need to shorten this one because I see this as shorter over here. Or is it that one I need to? Well, we know that we need to take away a little bit of that length right there. And there we go. Right there. Now let's check the, okay. Okay, so I'll need to make that line a little bit more like that. All right. Now, all right, so give that a try, creating a little tool for yourself so that you can create something to compare the edges or the tilts of angles that you see without calling it curve. If you're thinking a road being curved, and you know what? You'll be surprised if you're doing figure drawing, you're going to see more angles than you do curves. People automatically assume when you're doing figure drawing, automatically assume that areas are curved. But depending on what angle you're looking at, your figure, you're going to find a lot more angles than you are curves. You can use something like this to compare that with, and you can see how that works. Give it a try and see if you don't enjoy it. Be sure to view all of our quick tips. And while you're doing so, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell so you'll always get a notice when we produce a new quick tip, which is every week. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section and we'll make a quick tip for you. Also, take a trip over to DianneMize.com where I have full-length lessons, downloads, DVDs, lots of other stuff there, some free stuff for you. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and that way you'll always be informed every time we do something new.